Please like, subscribe, and be sure to click that bell button for regular and exciting indie film content and your chance to be the first to engage with the Liftoff Global Network of Film Festivals as we embark on launching the careers of the filmmakers of tomorrow.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's stream. Today we are joined by some fantastic filmmakers who took part in the Los Angeles Liftoff Film Festival and picked up the Audience Choice Award. So let's find out who is here on the call. Cal, I'm going to throw it over to you first. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us what your film was? And we'll go around and find out who else is on the call after you. So Cal, take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Cal Barnes. I'm an actor and filmmaker, and I have a feature film right now, and it's called The Astrid Experience that's going to be screening today.
Amazing. Thank you. Robin and team, could you please introduce who you are and who's with you on the call?
Hello, my name is Robin Leabman, and sitting to my left is Patricia Rigney, and to my right is Kevin Correo. I'm the director of H.O.E.s, The Bulge, and they are the writers and producers.
Thank you. So just so you are aware, we can hear you quite well, but the image is a little bit blurry. But it does, right now, it looks great. So hopefully it'll be all good on today's stream.
All right.
Over to Federico. Hi, can you tell us who you are?
Hi everyone, I'm Federico Napoleone. I'm the director for a short film called Cut, which is also screening today.
Fantastic. And Stella?
Hi, I'm Stella Fife. I'm a 17-year-old filmmaker, and I directed and wrote Talk to Your Fish.
Amazing. Thank you. And finally, but not least, JP. Hi.
Hey, I'm JP Bradham, and I'm the writer and director of Consumed.
Fantastic. So how today is going to work, I can see that there's quite a few people in the chat room, so if you do have any questions for our filmmakers, feel free to chat away and we'll be able to share those during today's stream. But what we're going to do is we're going to get the first project up and rolling, which is going to be Cal's. So do bear with us as we get that up on the system. We're going to watch that muted, and Cal and I are going to have a great conversation about the project. For our filmmakers who are on the call, if there are any questions that come up or you want to share something bouncing off of what Cal has said, feel free to do so. Each film will have roughly 15 minutes, and then we'll open it up to the audience as well. So let me start by getting Cal's film ready. Okay. Here we go. So I think you guys should be able to see that coming through. I'm just going to move us across so we can see. Oh no, maybe it is working. There we go. So, okay, Cal, take it away. Tell us a little bit more about this project, please.
Yeah, this is my feature. It's called The Astrid Experience, and it's the story of an artist that's in recovery from making some bad life decisions, and he's been putting his life together for a couple years. He lost a lot, loses his girlfriend, loses make some bad career moves, and then he meets this girl a couple years later, and they go on this all-night adventure through LA, and kind of through it, he sees that there's something more worth living for.
Nice. How did you come up with this story? What was the inspiration behind it?
So I remember I wrote this script. This was like I think I've written 18 features, and I think this was like
You've written 18 features?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think this was my around like 10th or like 9th or something like that. And I wrote it, the first draft in around 2012. And yeah, here we go right here. Like this is perfect. It's a perfect place for the film to be at. But because yeah, they're literally walking through Hollywood. So like in this scene here, this is actually where I got the idea, the impetus for the film. Was like I actually had an experience like that with an actress I was seeing at the time. This was like in 2012, and I was like really inspired by the mumblecore movement at the time, because I've been in LA for like 14 years now. So this was before iPhones, and it was like right when the DSLR cameras were kind of on the scene. And I just remember I was really inspired by people just, I was a little frustrated with my career at the time. And just as an actor, not having a whole lot of control of what came my way. And I just was really inspired by like actors and writers and filmmakers just going out and making stuff with this new technology. And so I was trying to get them made, and I didn't quite have the filmmaking knowledge at the time. And it wasn't quite as accessible as it is now. It was still kind of expensive. But I was writing scripts. So yeah, I wrote this script. It was called, I think, the original name for it was the Untitled Los Angeles Romance Project. That was the first title for it. And so I wrote like a 50-page outline, and I kind of set it aside. And then that kind of sat for a while. I wrote some other stuff and like acted in some other stuff. And then my friend John Thad, who's our producer, he does the whole soundtrack for the movie, which is really strong. It's a very strong soundtrack, probably one of the strongest parts of the film. I produced one of his music videos, and directed one of his music videos. So he was like, I want to do a feature with you. Do you have anything we can make on basically like a micro budget? And so I was like, let me check. And I kind of found this outline. It all takes place in LA. I kind of had this idea of how I wanted to shoot it. And so yeah, that's kind of how it happened. And we both kind of like put up the original financing for it and pooled like all of our resources that we had over the last 10 years of working and living here. And that's how we got this kind of going.
That's amazing, because I
Mm-hmm.
am actually aware of how much this film cost. Well, when I was going through Film Freeway earlier and looking at all of your specifications, I'm aware. So you guys self-funded this project.
Yeah, we did. At least for production, we financed it and we got it in the can. And then, post, we got it in the can. It was like, we moved really fast. I mean, I got us from like script through casting into the can in like 5 months. And then we hit like post-production hell, literally. And then it was like, it took us like 3 years to get through post. It was really brutal because we did like a WeFunder raise, and then COVID hit, and it was a pretty savage getting through post. So we were really rolling, and then post came, and then we just hit a wall. And but yeah, I'm really happy that we took our time and made sure like it looks like it does now. Yeah.
So that's a huge hurdle that you had to overcome then in post-production if it took 3 years to get completed. Were there any other hurdles that you had to overcome during the filmmaking process?
Yeah, I mean, so many. It's post was definitely it. Shooting, like everything went pretty well, and through like production, shooting, I mean, we had everything lined up. There was a lot of momentum. Post was really, there was just so many problems. I can't even remember them all. We did a WeFunder raise. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that platform. It's like kind of a Kickstarter, except like the next level, and it's all equity based. It's all investment based, and the bar for entry is much higher and everything.
Yeah, I'm aware of this platform. Actually, a friend of mine's about to go through it. So yeah.
It's amazing. I'd really recommend it. It's incredible. We met like a lot of great investors and people through that, and then that was a process. But because COVID hit right when we launched, like we launched, and then we were talking to our people there in Silicon Valley, and we were like, should we actually wait or should we just go? And I was like, let's just go, because like we can't stop the momentum now. We have to just keep going, because who knows when this will all be over. And I'm glad we did, because it was like 2 years later or whatever. So we ended up raising probably about half as much as we would have, because there was a lot of scared money at the time, and a lot of people weren't investing in film because it's kind of a luxury investment. It's not really something when the world is kind of shutting down you're going to be investing in. So I think that really kind of set us back on like what we could have raised, but I'm still grateful for what we did raise. But so that was problematic. So then we had half of what we projected to finish the movie with. So we had to basically end up doing a lot of things that we were going to pay for. So we couldn't afford the post house that we signed on. So then I actually had to learn, John had to learn how to sound mix. I had to learn how to edit and color grade, which I took like 3 months, I had to do, which is great. It's a great skill to have now, but it was definitely not what I signed up for in terms of of what wanting to do mainly as an actor and writer and now a filmmaker. It was kind of like, I guess like a blessing in disguise. At the time, it didn't feel like it because we ended up having to do like a year of extra work each.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely problematic. But we learned how to do it, and we learned like DaVinci Resolve is an amazing tool. They have like a lot of incredible. You can pretty much do anything with an image. We had a lot of we shot this on an iPhone, believe it or not. We shot this on an iPhone 8 Plus. And my goal was to make like at the time, I mean, the images they have now with the iPhone 14 and 15 are just, superior. But I wanted to make the best film ever shot on an iPhone 8. that was like my goal, is like the best looking film and the coolest film. I'm not sure if we accomplished that. I don't know what other films have been shot on an iPhone 8 yet. But that was the goal. And I know Sean Baker shot, he shot Tangerine on an iPhone, I think 4 or 5. So, yeah. So I was like, we can get a better image than that because the technology was a lot better, had advanced a lot. So, yeah. So, I mean, that was the goal. And I think that using Resolve and, we had a lot of the sensor on an iPhone 8. It's a great tool. We shot in 4K. We shot in anamorphic. We had an anamorphic lens kit. The only problem is the image. The sensor is like 8-bit. It's on the iPhone 8, which doesn't give you a lot of dynamic range. So when we were shooting in low light, we had a lot of, you can't see it anymore. We had a lot of breaking up problems with the image, which was pretty scary for a while because we were like, I don't know if we could really use this. But there's this tool that DaVinci Resolve has called the Neat Noise Reduction tool. It's a post-production tool that like plugs in, and I was able to really like recreate the whole entire image for a lot of scenes with it, and it's pretty unreal. In fact, yeah, I can't even believe it's actually possible to do that. So yeah, that tool and other tools like that really saved us in post. Especially since we had to figure out how to get the film done for like so much less. So I think it was just the timing, the money, the COVID, sort of, we had some money, which was great, but like not enough to do what like we wanted. So like that slowed us down because it's all time and money, right? Like the more money you have, the faster you can do it, and the less you have, the longer it's gonna take. What's the triangle, like the good, fast, cheap triangle. It can be good and fast, but it won't be cheap. It can be fast and good, or like it can be cheap and good, but it won't be fast.
I know what you're saying. I can't remember what the saying is, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, so that's kind of it. That's what we push through, and yeah, definitely, we push through a lot of stuff. Definitely.
Amazing. Well, I think overall this is a fantastic film, and to hear that you've written 18 feature films in your history, I'm excited to see what else is going to happen with you. So what is next? So a nice question to round up from me is, what is next?
Yeah, so I'm working on I met a filmmaker, Kevin Stevenson, who made this award-winning film, The Party, on this festival circuit. And I'm mainly an actor and writer. Like I made this film to kind of support my acting career and my writing career. Cool. And so, I really like acting. That's kind of my thing. I've always like written scripts to star in and stuff. And he's definitely a better filmmaker than me. And so it's cool because I have a lot more writing experience and acting experience. And so we're kind of teaming up. So I kind of met a director on the circuit who's done like 5 features. And I have this script called Infinite Limits that's going into production. It's we're trying to make it for about 2 to 5. And it's kind of it's a crime thriller, kind of like Seven. And so like that's like my next. I've always wanted to play a detective in a film. So
Very cool.
yeah, it's one of my scripts, and I'm starring in it. He's directing, and yeah, it's pretty exciting. Like we're kind of just in deep development right now, getting ready to move into pre-production here as soon as SAG strikes are over. So it's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Well, we've had a little bit of progress with that, which is great. So now we need to get the actors strike resolved as well.
Yeah.
And then we'll be
the WGA wrapping up is a good step.
As I pause your film and we come to an end on your section, I just want to throw it over to the rest of the people that are on the call. Do you have any questions for Cal or anything that you'd like to add from what you've heard from his little segment?
I do. I noticed that the music and the filming was like Los Angeles was also a character along with the music. I tied everything really well together. So nice job.
Thank you. Yeah, that was definitely LA being a character was huge going into it, wanting to capture the feel of that like young Hollywood romance. Since I did grow up in LA, Hollywood since I was 21, so I've spent the majority of like my young adult life here. So I really wanted to try to capture that. So thank you for noticing that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts or questions before we move on to the next film? Cal, I'm very excited by everything that you're doing, and I think hearing what else you've got in the pipeline, please stay in touch. Please let us know how the next projects go, and just good luck with everything that you're working on.
Thanks, Dad. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. This is a great honor to be a part of this, so thank you.
And as we're moving on to the next film, there's still quite a few people watching, so if you have any questions for Cal, let us know now. And the next film that we're going to move on to is H.O.E.s Bulge. So let's get that film loaded up. Robin and team, are you ready? Okay, let's go.
We are ready.
Fantastic. Here we go. So that should be coming on your screens any second now. So as that loads your side, let us know a little bit more about why you wanted to make this short film.
Well, let me actually hand it over to Kevin and Trish about why they wrote this.
You go first.
Okay, so I was surfing late at night and QVC landed, and I was watching it laughing, saying these characters are comic gold. And I talked to my writing partner, Kevin, and I'm like, we've got to do something with this. Like, some of the products are crazy, the characters, they're crazy. And so we came up with H.O.E.s, the Bulge.
And it's basically how we became a writing team. So it was the first thing that we officially worked on together. And then over the years, we worked on other projects and everything that we wanted to return back to that. And like, let's get that out there because it's kind of our first baby, if you will. So we want to see it grow. And so that's what happened. And then we brought Robin on board to direct. And we've collaborated on different projects before. So then, but then we said, do you want to, direct? And he also DP'd, so he was doing double duty, which most of you filmmakers already know, like, you're already doing a lot of stuff anyway. So then we had Robin do that too.
It was a lot of fun, and I was I really implored them to have me direct, and I didn't know if they had other people that they wanted to have direct this. But when I read it, I just got it. I could see the whole thing in my head, both as the story that they're telling, and also visually how I would shoot it. And so we had a couple of meetings, and I don't know if I had to convince them or if they were just enjoying the free lunches, but so. But I'm really happy that they gave me this opportunity.
Well, I heard 90% of that, but you guys are quite robotic coming through, unfortunately. It must be a signal or Wi-Fi your side, because everyone else is looking great on this side.
Okay.
We can hear you, so let's try a little bit more. But if it gets too much, we'll find another time and get you back. I promise.
Okay. Shoot. Okay.
So I was listening to all of that, but one of the things that stands out a lot for me is the different locations that you have, and another thing is the performances. So they're the two areas I want to talk about mainly. How did you secure all of these locations? Talk us through your process.
We used a website. What was it called? To find the locations. There was a website here in
Right.
What's it called?
I forget right now.
I can't remember. It's a website that let you, I think, for low budget productions,
You can rent different studios.
Yeah, it's like this locations website, and anything from a bedroom to a kitchen to whatever, and we go. It's almost like Airbnb for locations, and we found a couple good spots that looked like a production space that we could have a low budget home shopping network on. And I think it was the first one, or maybe the second one that we saw. We went, oh my God, this is it. We have the perfect space for our camera setup. There was a dressing room, and one of the things that you'll see when you watch the show is this not the opening shot, but in the first couple of minutes, this one camera tracking shot that goes through the entire space, because I wanted to set the location, set the space for the audience to see that we really were in this location and we weren't dividing it out amongst several different places. So hopefully I'm coming through here, but that was a shot that we spent 3 days planning.
So,
And
Robin, I am actually going to
yeah.
say I think we should reschedule when you've got better Wi-Fi.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's. I think it's too robotic, and I know that there's a few people here supporting you watching this. So I'd rather that they got a good experience and we all got a
Okay.
good interview. I'm really sorry.
Okay.
But
I wish
is
it worked.
quite
I don't
robotic.
know. Okay.
Yeah. Feel free to stay on the call. You can stay muted, and we can watch the other projects. But I will email you later, and we'll reschedule another call.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that. Well, that's a shame. Your film does look amazing as it is still screening. As we got there, so I am gonna pause that now and head back. This is a firm favorite among the jury, not just only the audience. So it is a fantastic film. So we will get you back. The next film I'm gonna jump over to is Stella, your film, Talk to Your Fish. So as I get that loaded, get yourself prepared and tell us a little bit more about the inspiration behind your film.
Yeah, so this was my first film that I ever wrote and directed. And so it was basically inspired because I had always wanted to tell a story about a character who was on the spectrum, because one of my family members is on the spectrum that I'm very close with. And, there's a lot of misinformation and judgment out in the world about what it is like living on the spectrum. A lot of people have in their minds these extremes. And so I feel like I've always wanted to create a story that could connect with people who are on the spectrum and that could accurately depict a character who is on the spectrum and adjusting to living on his own, and adjusting to taking responsibility, and change in his routine. And so that was something I had always wanted to write about. And so I am a student at a school called Geffen Academy at UCLA. It is by no means an art school or anything like that, but I had started taking photography as an elective. And it really inspired me to want to do filmmaking because I loved expressing myself visually and expressing stories visually. And I loved doing more narrative photography and noticed that it was a lot more cinematic. And so I knew I really wanted to create a film eventually. But obviously as a student, that's very difficult and finding the time. And also, the support and the people, and it's definitely a huge commitment. And so, I never really knew when I would be able to accomplish that goal of mine until I kind of spoke to my photography teacher. And he also saw a lot of faith in me to be able to produce a film. And he actually gave me a semester to produce a film for his class, and also that I could take on to the festival circuit. And so that was, the best news I ever could have heard. And I was so excited to be able to finally tell the story that I had been wanting to write forever. And so, yeah, it was just an amazing opportunity that I could explore with that story that was kind of always in my head, that I could one day explore.
Fantastic. So how old were you when you made this film?
I was 16.
Yeah, it's very mature. It's amazing. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah. I couldn't have done it without I had so much support around me, from my dad, both my parents, all of my family. I'm sure some of my family is watching right now. I know my grandparents said that they'd be watching. And so I could have never done it without, all the support with my cast and crew as well. I feel like in this project, I definitely realized how much of a collaborative process it was. I tend to be someone who likes to be very independent and not ask for help. But in this, it was just so amazing to actually be able to reach out and gain knowledge from everyone. Because like I said, it was, my first time being on a set, directing an actor, writing a script that was actually going to be produced into something visual. And so it was just overall an experience that I will always remember and be able to draw knowledge from, for hopefully the rest of my career. But yeah.
Nice. Something that really stood out was the lead actor's performance. His name slips my mind at the moment, but it was fantastic. So I want to understand how you approached this with rehearsals. What was your approach to getting that performance?
Yeah, so Trace Talbot is the actor. He's an incredible actor. And, obviously as a student, when I first came up with this character, I tried searching at my school, looking in the theater department, talking to my friends who had acting experience, but no one really had, the range that it would take to do a project like this and fulfill my story is very character driven, and it relies heavily on, its acting, especially because I knew that I wanted a film that didn't rely so much on dialogue. And so, especially with, my character's personality traits. So I knew that I needed someone who would be able to be very good at, facial expressions and portraying emotion simply through their manner and their behavior, which takes a lot of skill as an actor. So I knew I needed someone more experienced than someone at school or one of my friends. And so I had talked to my dad, who had actually connected with Trace and his mom previously. And Trace had been acting since he was a child. And I watched his reel, and it included another short film that he had actually been nominated Best Actor for in the Manhattan Shorts Awards. That was called Two Little Boys. And his acting was very dynamic in that, and definitely was able to portray the types of emotions that I would need in a film like this. And, luckily, once I reached out, he was super excited to be on this project, and he did tons of research on what it's like to be on the spectrum. And he just truly was a pleasure to work with. And, really brought the role to life in a way that I couldn't be more grateful.
Yeah, nice. I think you've both done a fantastic job at nailing the performance. The cinematography in this is very strong as well. So was a DP someone who was more experienced, or was that also someone from your school?
Yes. So he was definitely more experienced. He was actually one of my dad's friends, and he luckily was really excited to jump on board with this. So yeah, he has had a lot of prior experience with television and commercial. And so I was so grateful to be able to work from him and learn from him and, see how he actually did things. That was definitely just an incredible experience, especially because I had never been on that side of the camera and seeing how it was actually done. And so I just couldn't be more grateful for that. And he was just such an inspiration to me, especially because cinematography is something I hope to explore in my education as I grow older. But yeah.
Is one of the tips that we give first-time filmmakers or emerging filmmakers who come through the lift-off doors, have an experienced DP cinematographer on your project, because they'll be able to bring that image that you have in your head to life. So I'm glad to hear that you had a similar experience. Definitely. Were there any hurdles that you had to overcome during the shooting?
Definitely. Especially as a first-time filmmaker, I was expecting hurdles, but I think one of the main things I learned is being a little bit flexible with your script, not getting so attached to it, because changes can come up. And I actually had changed my script 3 days before we were set to shoot, because basically our location changed. And so that was definitely very difficult. We were set to shoot at a family friend's apartment. But there was, a lot of issues with permits and, the tenants needing to know about the shoot. And so as it got closer to the date, we realized that it really wasn't the best option. And so we had to, quickly find a location that was, cheap and that would actually be able to kind of create that same kind of feel as being an apartment, and also have enough blank spaces that we could be able to dress it how we wanted and stage it. And also I needed a lot of that space so that way I can show how his environment evolved along with him. Because a lot of that was, in the beginning, there's this kind of scene where you see him in his space and it's, messy, has boxes that haven't been unpacked, as it seems like he's just moved in. He has like clothes that haven't been folded, and you can tell he's kind of a bit disoriented in the space and not yet kind of acclimated to this new way of living. And then at the end, you kind of see the parallel of, the clothes folded, the windows are now open, his boxes are gone. And so it really wanted to show that kind of the way his character evolved also through his environment. And so I knew I needed a space that could do that. So that's why it was very, difficult to have to try and work it and change it that, last minute. But luckily, the place I found was amazing. It was actually a church in Hollywood, which you would never think it would be a church, but they had all these different rooms that were empty, places that like were used to be classrooms, or place that used to be like some kind of place with a stage or things like that, kitchens, just empty storage rooms that we were able to dress up and had windows that way we could use natural light, because majority of this film was shot in natural light. And so, yeah, I was very lucky to have found that location last minute, and it actually turned out, I think, better than it would have with the apartment setting. So
It's
yeah.
funny how hurdles can sometimes come into these like amazing miracles. But yeah, great. So what's next? What are you working on now? Do you have your new project in the pipeline?
Well, right now I'm in the process of applying to colleges. So I'm hoping that I can get to go onto a college with a film program, and, you know, continue working on screenplays, hopefully make a film within my college career as well. And also I want to continue my photography. And I'm actually working on a series right now that's based on Italian Futurism, which was an artistic movement back in the 20th century. And so I'm continuing that, and also just continuing raising awareness for mental health as well, and also even more awareness about, you know, ASD. And so that's definitely something I want to continue in my projects is, you know, advocacy meets filmmaking is something that I'm really passionate about. And so I hope that in my future career that I'll get to make more films, and I can also continue my other creative works like writing and photography.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story and your experience. For those that are on the call, do you have any questions for Stella or thoughts?
I just want to say I think it's really incredible what you did with, especially being very young and starting your career. I wish I would have started at your age for sure. And I watched your film and I thought it was fantastic and really authentic. So that was very well done.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So JP, we're actually going to head over to your film next. So I'm going to get that loaded and you can take it away. Do you want to tell us or remind us what the project was called and the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, my project's called Consumed, and it's about Tammy who discovers one night that her shopping addiction might become the death of her. So I thought it was quite funny too, because H.O.E.s the Bulge is in here too,
Yeah.
and they also had a very like QVC centric type of film. But that's what I love about filmmaking is that you can have the same concept, right? You can take the same concept of like consumerism or infomercials and give it to 1,000 different people, and you're going to get 1,000 different stories. So I kind of laughed at that because I'm a horror, you know, centric writer.
Fantastic.
And your comedy. So I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. We both took that same kind of idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm jumping ahead from one of the questions I was going to ask you later down in the stretch, but I'm going to ask it now. It feels more appropriate. Have you heard of a YouTube platform called Alter?
Like Ulta Beauty?
Like ALTER. Alter.
Alta.
Like an
No.
alter reality.
Oh, Alter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
English accent. Sorry.
I'm horrible with the accents. I'm so American. It's me. It's not you.
I don't even know how to say it in American.
Alter, yes, and
Yes.
I love Alter. I love Gunpowder and Sky. Like they're awesome.
Are you trying to get on there? Because I really feel like this, specifically this short, would be a perfect fit for their YouTube channel.
I love that feedback. Yes, I would love to get onto Alter. I'm still in my festival run, so that's something I definitely want to look into when I get closer to the end of the run, which will probably be by the end of this year, you know.
For the others who are on this call and are wondering, like, what's Alter? Essentially, it's a platform that showcases horror films. There's other platforms on YouTube that showcase sci-fi and comedy and short films, and it's a really great place to put your film once it's finished the festival circuit, because there's not really a lot of distribution opportunities for short films. So if you're thinking, what do I do with my film once it's done? Something like this would be great because it just builds up views. So when you move on to your next film or you want to take that jump into a feature, all of a sudden you have an audience. And that's exactly what people are looking for. So just a little side note there. But heading back to your film, again, the casting is amazing and the cinematography, the production value on this film is fantastic. So I wondered if you could shed some light on any of those areas. Maybe we should start with the casting, because the actors are great.
The actors were so awesome. They're all really good friends of mine. And just a little bit, like, to give some context. And I think one thing that's interesting about this whole project is I come from like the opposite spectrum of the world of film, which is production. So I come from a marketing background, and I later like that translated into commercial production. And I started as like a production coordinator, and I like learned all the back end of producing, and that's kind of how I came up into film. Not like on the artistic side, really. I've always been a writer myself, but you know, through then you kind of get like contacts, like you kind of become friends with a lot of different people and a lot of different talent and actors and things like that. And so that's kind of how eventually the casting came about, was like, you know, you just sort of have all of your friends who you've worked with that you're just like, cool, you want to do something? And so that's kind of how the casting came about, especially on a short film. It's very like scrappy and very like, okay, we're doing this. So you're just sort of pulling anyone who, you know, but I will say Georgina, I didn't actually even know her personally. I actually like cold reached out to her. I met her husband, Mark, through a DP friend of mine, and we became social media friends. And then I saw that he was married to Georgina, and I'm a huge fan of Georgina because I don't know if you guys are familiar with horror, but she was in a film called Pontypool, which is like a really great indie horror film if you haven't seen it. It's like Stephen King literally says it's one of his favorite like indie horrors. So
what's the name of it again?
Pontypool. And it's a really great film. It premiered at TIFF in 2008. So I already knew her from there, and I decided to just be bold and like reach out to her and be like, I have this short film. This is like going out on a limb, but would you read the script? And she said, yeah, she would read it. And it was kind of like incredible. So yeah. One of those random things, you just go for it, you know?
Yeah, amazing. I love hearing stories like that because it's the same. Like, we get a lot of films and there's actors in there that are on TV in the UK or have got a feature film under their belt. And we're just like, how did you get this actor? And it's just that. If you don't ask, you don't get. So you just gotta put yourself out there. Something else on my notes that's coming back for your film is the sound and music. Now, our audience can't hear this because it's muted. But that came back as like a 9 out of 10 from our jury. So
amazing.
I just wanted to mention that because I want to find out more about the score and about the sound design.
So Alexander Artson, he is our composer for the film, and he does a lot of horror. He actually, this is so funny, the reverse of what I did to Georgina, he did to me. So as soon as like I updated on IMDb the film project, he actually like found my email and reached out and was like, hey, I saw that you just did a horror film with Georgina Riley. Like, I'd love to score it. So that was incredible. And I knew right away when I talked to him that he was the guy. I'm very weird with sound and with noises. Like, I'm a little on the spectrum on that, I will say. And it has to be specific for me. And one of my favorite, sound is so important to me. And one of my favorite art installations is at the Tate, which is Babel. And I could just, it's that Tower of Babel. And it's just this beautiful tower of radios and TVs that are all set to sort of like white noise frequencies. And I told him that's the inspiration for the score. So have fun with that. And he really delivered. He really understood exactly with the screeches and with the when to come in, when to hold back. And he's brilliant. And then in terms of the sound design, I had an incredible sound designer who works at Skywalker Sound. Her name is Christina Morse. again, that was another cold email. I was on post-production, and what Cal said about the horrors of post-production is absolutely a fact. Big lesson. Next time we'll absolutely confront the post-production process, because that was a nightmare. But Christina was an angel. She came in and saved the day at the 11th hour. I reached out to her. I found her on Google search, and I was like, sound designers, freelance, whatever. Found Christina. And just being a female filmmaker and her being a female in sound, and that's a tough gig for females. Yeah. She was like, absolutely, I'll do it. And we just kind of worked on it on our own free time together. And she nailed the sound design. I loved it. I loved that experience. So that's my long-winded story.
But it just goes to show again, if you put yourself out there, you just don't know what's going to come your way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Totally.
The other thing, and I guess my final point, is that the production value and the art direction, again, is phenomenal across the board. Was that...
Thank you.
Did you get someone involved, or was that your vision?
Well, this is also my first film. Again, I've worked in the production side of things, so I'm really glad to hear that it's translating and that it went well on the other end, because you do put yourself out there, and Stella knows this too. It's like you're putting your art on the line, and I think what I wanted to make sure with it being my first film was that maybe this is not what you should do for everything, but on this one I was on every single little detail of the film. Yeah. Like, it's a short, so at the end of the day, and it's independent, so it's sort of like, this is your time to be able to sort of like put yourself out there, make all the mistakes, do all the things, have fun, don't worry about what happens. And I think that's why it translates so well, is because you're just free to create and you're free to put yourself out there. And people can see that, and they can, even if it's not their taste, or even if it's like, it's cool, but it's not my thing, at least they can understand the communication of what you're trying to say. And that's what still can affect them positively. So yeah, I had a hand in pretty much everything, but I can't take credit for the cinematography, because I had a great cinematographer who's a friend of mine, Casey, and he came on immediately when I said I was going to do a short, and he's like, let's do it. And he's actually the one who reached out to Panavision for us and ended up getting a sponsorship from Panavision for our ARRI Alexia LF, which obviously you guys know, like, the camera is kind of everything. And we got those beautiful P vintage spherical lenses from Panavision, which just gave the film this beautiful, crispy, vintage look.
Yeah. It could almost be as though it was shot on film, almost. So, yeah, very cool.
That's what we were going for. Yeah, that's what we were going for, was kind of like really, and if you see the film too, I'm kind of weird with the styling, because I wanted it to feel like it could have happened in the past, but it's not quite, because the technology is sort of everywhere. It's sort of like in the past, but today. So it's a little like confusing for people, but I like that, because I like to immerse people into a surrealistic story. I'm not one to be very traditional. I think like watching a movie should make you feel like you're having fun and you're having an experience, versus like having to stick with reality, completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Even the credits. The design on the credits is perfect as well. So.
I did that too, because I'm a sucker for credits. I love when the credits roll and it's something weird and something fun. And I was like adamant. By the way, guys, I actually had those credits made on Fiverr because I couldn't find somebody to do it. And then I was like, I'm just going to look on Fiverr. Found this guy who was like so down, and he's like, yeah, this is weird, I love it. And
perfect.
Yeah,
there you go. And what's next? Now you got the first short film under the belt. What's next?
Yeah, first one done. I've written a lot of stuff. I just finished wrapping up writing a feature film script based on a short script that I wrote called Eggbound. And it's basically, the idea is, I don't know if you guys have ever owned chickens. Have you? No chicken owners? Okay, sorry. I used to own chickens, and there's a condition with chickens called eggbound. And it's when the egg gets stuck within the chicken and they die. It's very sad.
So I haven't had a chicken, but I had a cockatiel, like a little small parakeet. She was eggbound. Yeah.
See? Okay, so it happens with birds, and it is real, and it's sad, and it happened to me once. And for some reason, I was thinking about that a couple of weeks ago, as one does, and hashing out old traumas. And I thought, what if that actually started to apply to women? What if the condition of eggbound started to happen to women? And what would that look like? And what if these women worked within this facility where that was their job of egg production? And it's kind of the idea, and again, a lot of my work is horror, but it kind of spills into the socialism sort of, or social concepts. So it's essentially, the theme is, whether you are pro-life or pro-choice, at the end of the day, we're all still controlling women's bodies. So it's kind of a sick and twisted comedic play on that.
Sounds like Black Mirror.
Yeah, a little Black Mirror-ish. Yeah.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
We are going to move on to Federico, your film now. Thank you for being patient, and thank you guys for all being with us on the call, and those in the chat room. Thank you. There's some lovely comments coming in there now as well. Cool. Federico, take it away. Tell us about your film and what your roles were and the inspiration.
So Cut was my thesis film for NYU, and it's a film that took a while to get the gist of in terms of story-wise. I wrote it during the summer last year, and there were a lot of times where I was very, confused about where the story would go, what it would lead to. But once I got the hang of it, once I understood, all right, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to do it, I was able to, I found a great crew, amazing cast as well, and us working together, it didn't take long for us to, get the ball going. And honestly, it was a very tough project in a sense to create, just because the story as well as the characters were kind of hard to draw inspiration for. But the film itself is basically talking about social media influencers and personalities, and how the whole idea about how social media is a facade and nothing on it is the actual reality of things. And these individuals you see in the film, especially the main character, they pretty much represent different areas of social media that try to scam their audience in order for their own personal gain, whether it be money, whether it be fame, and all of these different aspects. So there's finance, beauty, fitness. They all work together in their own fields. And the main character represents the financial aspect of these scams, and it kind of just follows him in his day-to-day routines. Going from making whether it be advertisements / commercials for his courses to discussions with these other people, and then basically stuff goes really wrong, and he gets not kidnapped but attacked by someone who he basically screwed over with these courses, who found that it was a scam, lost everything, and makes him confess to the world that he along with everyone else are scamming everyone for money and fame.
Nice, great. It is an interesting short film that you have come up with. So, talking about being the writer and the director, from writing it on the page to seeing the finished product, how much did it change over the course?
Not that much, to be honest. Thankfully, I had a very great director of photography who understood who read the script. I read the script with, and she understood very well what I was trying to portray. Not only with the coloring, but also how I wanted things to be placed and how I wanted things to be portrayed. So she helped. She did an amazing job with doing that. The script itself changed a lot over the course of the first 3 months of me initially writing the first draft to having the final product. It did change a lot, whether it be from the quote unquote antagonist to even visual aspects written on the page. But comparing the final draft to the end product of the film, not much was. It was pretty much exactly how I imagined it to be.
Wow, that's quite unusual, but I'm glad to hear you had quite a smooth journey. Did you have any hiccups along the way?
A lot. There were, yeah,
Okay.
there were. So because it was and my thesis for NYU, I was able to rent equipment from them, and there were a few hiccups when it came to our equipment. We even though me and my crew were very thorough in terms of checking everything out, we did miss a few things, so that kind of halted our production date. So we were meant to shoot for 2 days and very well like separated. So it was going to be like 8 hours each day, pretty much, something around that. And because of this one problem we had on the first day, we had to pause halfway through the first day and put everything on the second day. So the second day ended up being like a 14-hour shoot, which at the end, it was a very big relief for us when we finished it. But at the same time, it was a very big lesson for me to make sure double, triple, quadruple check everything and make sure everything is as it should be.
Yeah, definitely. There is no bad mistake. They're all really good learning curves for any journey that you're going on. The locations for this as well, was that part of your university or did you have to scout?
Fortunately, I didn't have to scout. There was this, for example, the second scene, the whole like in the garden, that was a garden connected to the building where my family lives. So we were very lucky to have such a nice looking location with easy accessibility. So everything was within reach. Luckily I didn't have to scout, and I didn't have any problems with that.
That was lucky, especially if you didn't have to deal with any licensing or getting permission to shoot anywhere. So that's another hurdle to overcome later down the line. So have you graduated now?
Yes, I graduated in May.
So what are you doing now, and what are you working on in regards to what you did on your course?
So now I've written a feature film, which when Cal mentioned his next project it's pretty funny because mine's also a crime detective story set in New York City, and I just finished writing it and already in the pre-production process, looking for funding, scouting locations with my producer and director of photography, sorting all the details out. And so I'm planning on shooting that later this year, and hopefully editing it as soon as it's done, get moving on that.
That's a big jump from graduating to then making your first feature, which is fantastic. How are you funding this project?
So it's going to be a mixture between funding from family and friends as well as crowdfunding online.
Okay, cool. Have you started that process of crowdfunding online?
Me and my producer are actually in the midst of talking about that. We're starting this week.
So the co-founder of Liftoff, James Bradley, on our YouTube channel, there is a video about crowdfunding. He was very successful. I think he got about £30,000 through his Kickstarter campaign, and he talks about how he did it. So if you wanted some hints and tips, then definitely go and check that video out. But there's loads of material online that you can get good advice from. But it is good. Oh. And Cal, what was the one that you were using? We Film?
Yeah, I was using WeFunder.
WeFunder.
Yep.
Definitely check that out.
Thank you.
There is another one in the UK. It will come to. Oh no. I'm thinking of Pause TV. And this is where you can crowdfund after your film's been made. So it's not necessarily for post. It's once it's been made and it's doing the festival circuit, or you want to expose it, you can host it on Pause TV as an event. And once you've got an audience and they watch your film, they can leave a tip at the end. So you can kind of get a little bit of money in that way, which is a cool thing to do if you're looking to get a little bit of revenue back. Greenlit. That was the one I was thinking about.
Greenlit.
Have you heard of Greenlit?
I haven't.
No, it's another one. They do a lot of post-production. So again, it's for kickstarting, but after the initial kickstart. So yeah, definitely check those out. But good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything and for everyone here. Do you have any questions for Federico? Any questions for anyone else? I know I missed a few people's opportunities to ask questions. So if you have any questions for each other, now's an opportunity to ask. And it all goes silent.
I actually can ask something to JP. Firstly, I just want to say your film was amazing. I'm a huge horror fan, so I love that kind of spin on that. But two, just knowing that you were like a writer, first and foremost as well. What's your kind of advice for like keeping up the kind of stamina as a screenwriter? It definitely can get kind of hard, and like especially because I hope to kind of do that as well one day, and I know I'm sure other people watching are interested. But what's your kind of tips for that?
Yeah, really good question. It's just constantly doing it. And for me, I know what works is, at least if I'm just thinking about my screenplay for 15 minutes a day, even if I'm not putting pen to paper, you're thinking about it. And sometimes just going to take a walk and distancing from it when you get stuck and just sort of looking around you, anything can kind of spark inspiration within you to get you going again. I come from a background of educators, and a big thing that I've always been taught growing up is always learn. Never consider that you know everything there is to know. And even now, I've actually enrolled in UCLA for their screenwriting certificate program because I want to get more education, and always find programs that you can do. Sundance Collab, I started with them when they first initiated that program. Take a look at that. 8-week courses. They're really, really easygoing and on a gradient, and you can get certificates within those. So always educate yourself. Find time for yourself every day to carve out 15 minutes to work on whatever it is that you want to work on. And when you get discouraged, take a step away, live life a little sometimes, and come back to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, great advice. Any other thoughts or questions before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I got one for
Yeah,
Federico. Yeah, man. So you're jumping from a short to a feature, and you're doing a crime thriller. That's like one of my favorite genres. What films inspired you, or like what's the reason that you want to make a crime thriller your first feature?
So there was a short story I read a couple years ago in high school. A short story from like the 1940s, written by a very well-known Argentinian author, and he's very big on these puzzling and maze-centric stories where it leads you to think one way when in reality you're meant to think another. And one of the stories that he wrote was this crime story, and I kind of took in some inspiration from it and decided to write one in New York City it centers around it's very similar theme about maze and puzzles and all these very kind of confusing aspects, but I describe it more as a very like Sherlock Holmes like film where the main character is very pensive and is very passionate about these certain texts and historical texts which come in handy actually in the film.
Cool. Sounds cool. Awesome.
Very cool. Thank you. Any other final thoughts? No, Robin, Patricia, Kevin, I will be in touch. We'll get you back.
So sorry, we don't know what happened.
You sound a little bit better now, but I can the screen just keeps yeah, I'm not sure. You can see it back and you'll understand why I did that.
Okay.
But we will get you set up. Maybe go to someone else's house. You can see if they're like
I guess.
Exactly.
yeah. But yeah, we'll sort that out and we'll get you back. And for everyone else, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your time coming on and talking to us about your projects. Good luck with everything. Stay on for a moment as I wrap down the stream and we can do a little outro ourselves. But thank you. Thank you to everyone again. Bye-bye.